All right, welcome to day 3 of Love, Sex and Magic. And I was just talking about, before I was recording, about what today is about. So really it's about creating whatever you want to create in your life, how to create that. But before we go into it, I want you to keep in mind at least one thing that you want to welcome into your life. So it could be related to day 1 and day 2. So it could be more self-love, it could be deeper relationships with the people around you. It could be a partnership. It could be confidence in your sensuality, your sexuality, feminine energy. It could be career. It could be absolutely anything. And it can be as specific or as broad as you want it to be. And I want you to keep that in mind as we go through this session today. So this session is all about how to create, through action and trust, balancing those two, the life that you want. So I did briefly just touch on this, but message of day 1 was all about love. So cultivating compassion, receiving, and self-love. And day 2 was about sex and sensuality, surrender, trust, embodiment. So being and feeling and intuition. And these two together, all these 6 or 7 qualities that we shared between day 1 and day 2 are really cornerstones of the feminine energy that I spoke about on day 2. It's all about receiving and feeling and love. And whilst that doesn't sound like that's something you need in order to take action to get what you want, it's actually very important in the process for you to be able to hold yourself, because it's all right to want the things that you want and to take action and go for those things. But if you can't come back to a space of compassion, then you're going to find there's things along the way that will block you, that will stop you, that will make you feel like, not make you feel like, it will help sabotage your chances, because so many emotions can come up when we're striving for something if we don't necessarily feel like we're worthy or good enough for it. And that's why I just love feminine energy. So the agenda for today will be redefining success and what it means to you, productivity and how rest is actually beneficial for productivity, as well as using the menstrual cycle for productivity and how knowing this can help inform so many women. I know it sounds strange, but bear with me. I'm doing it right now. The ultimate mindset for creating your dream life. We'll touch on manifestation very lightly, and then we'll also go through trust and intuition, what it is and how to do it. So let's redefine success. What does success mean to you? If you want to take notes, if you can right now, you're more than welcome to. This is also a homework question. So if your brain is struggling to listen to me and write at the same time, choice is yours, really. So I wanted to talk about this because so many of us define success by what the dictionary tells us success is, or what our parents told us success is, or what they led us to believe that sex was. Same with society, culture, and that's not to blame anyone either. That is ours for the taking, the definition, and it's also ours to change if we so choose. So a great example of this is in my career. I used to define success as making 100K a year, or and just making a ton of money, really, and being busy all the time and having a completely full calendar of clients. And that sounds fantastic, and that was what I wanted for a while. But that doesn't necessarily shape what I want success to be anymore, because even when I did have those things, I not only did I not necessarily feel successful, I wasn't enjoying myself. And so success to me now is in my career, finding flow, having the freedom to do what I want to do, being able to step back and have compassion for myself, and also be my number one supporter. And if I can keep coming back to those things, no matter what I do, and even no matter in what area of life, I will feel like I am successful. What's funny, I have a story about success and my old definition versus my new one. So at the beginning of the year, I started my very first masterclass, which was New Year, New Mindset. I had a lot of people ask to join. I loved the content, and I had no idea what I was doing other than knowing the content and knowing the NLP tools that I have used. But the masterclass itself, I just made. It was just like a PowerPoint slide full of my knowledge. And I'd never done one of these before. Didn't know how to structure it or anything like that. I just went with what felt good. And I enjoyed myself making it. And as I was, what's the word? Doing it. I wanted to use a nicer word than that. But as I was, going through the masterclass, it felt awesome. It was a little nerve-wracking, but it felt awesome. And then, I got clients from that. It's in my first month of business in coaching, I made $2,000, which in your first month in any business starting from scratch is like phenomenal. And it's something you need to stop and celebrate, which I did and I didn't. I didn't really celebrate that fully. And so once I had finished the masterclass and I finished with those 2 clients, then all of a sudden there was nothing. And my definition of success was having clients and being busy and having money. And so I felt like a failure. I felt like there was something wrong, and there was something wrong with me, and that I wasn't good enough. And so I invested in an expensive business course. I soaked up all the knowledge that they gave me and I implemented it. I did it to a T. The structure, I ignored my intuition and the curiosity and the play and the creativity, and I did what I was told. And I had no success. Not even that old definition of success. I had people in the group. I had people show up to the masterclass, but I wasn't making any sales. I didn't have any clients, and I not necessarily wasn't enjoying the content. I wasn't enjoying the flow of the masterclasses. It felt really tight and rigid and inauthentic. And so now I'm in a space where I've realized that not only does that definition of success not work for me anymore, but listening to other people and doing what they say I should do doesn't work for me anymore. So I would go as far as to say I would add on authenticity to my new definition of success as well. And like I said in the previous slides, being able to have compassion for yourself when you don't reach your goals, when you don't achieve that definition of success, is super important for even being able to define success in the first place. So my question is to you, if you do have a definition of success or one that you're willing to redefine, how can you embody this new definition of success right now? And we talked about embodiment yesterday with, the feminine energy grounding down into the body. What does your definition of success look like? If you were to have that success right now, what would it feel like? And these are important things to think about as we move through the session, because at the end we're going to talk about manifestation and being able to visualize and think about what the definition of success looks like in whatever area of life that is for you, whatever you want to, bring into your life, and what that feels like. So a lot of the time when we're defining success, we don't necessarily think about it in terms of taking rest, right? It's all about having and doing. So I wanted to talk about how you can use rest for productivity. And this is not necessarily a new concept, but I've found a new way to think about it that actually helped me realize how much I do need to rest even when I'm taking action. So we've all heard you can't pour from an empty cup. We've also heard you need to recharge, batteries are running low. But what I want to talk about is the idea that if you are to constantly force and push your goals and the actions that you're taking in creating, let's think about work, for example. You're just constantly working, maybe you don't have boundaries and you keep pushing. And it comes to a point where if you don't take rest and you keep working, you're going to burn out. And if you at that point don't take rest and you keep working, you're going to get sick. This is just a fact of the human body. You can't stay in an unregulated nervous state for very long before your body starts to crumble. So let's say you're at that point of starting to get sick because of your burnout. You are sick. Now you have to take 2 days off work. That's 48 hours of time down the drain because you didn't stop to take rest. So I want you to think about it like this. If you have just an hour a day, I know that sounds like a lot to some of you, and you're probably like, an hour? I don't have an hour. Just go with me because it's easier with the math. You can do it with less time in your own time if you want. So if you were to take 1 hour's rest every day, where you just dropped everything, you didn't think about work, you were present, dropped the phone too, because that's activity on your brain. And I've just done a podcast on that, which will come out next week. So if you need a reminder, your gal's got you. An hour's rest a day is 7 hours rest a week. If you're consistently doing that, instead of burning yourself out to the point where you have to take 48 hours off, you actually get 41 hours back of time, of productivity. Because you're less likely to take those sick days. Just food for thought when it comes to productivity and rest. Life is polarity, balance. And when I say balance, I don't necessarily mean it's going to be 50-50 all the time, or that it has to be 50-50 all the time. It flows. It comes and goes. We're going to have different ways of balancing the polarities. So the yin and the yang, which is the feminine and the masculine. Flow and structure. Purpose and specificity. So purpose being like the bigger picture, the why versus specific action. You've got feminine and masculine. One cannot exist in harmony without the other. So we need to use both. There was something else I was going to say there. I might let it slip. Like Eminem, I let it slip. You can't have productivity without rest. Just saying. Now, moving on from productivity just for a moment, although it's still related, I want you to trust the season you're in. I don't know if you've heard this phrase before, but what I mean by this is trusting the season of your life that you're in right now. So if everything feels like let me bring up the picture because I love looking at it. If everything feels like it's slow, like there's not much changing, there's not much happening, you're not very busy, you've got a lot of downtime, or even as though you feel like you need more downtime, a lot of downtime, this could mean that you're in your winter. This is how I like to refer to this season. This is a season of your life, and the length is not controlled by anyone other than the universe, in my opinion, but it could be controlled by you too. So in your life right now, not necessarily in any specific areas, but where are you at? Is everything slow? Or perhaps you're in a stage of your life where you've got lots of ideas coming in, lots of new goals, lots of new desires, there's lots of opportunities coming your way, and you just feel like there's an abundance in life. You feel wealthy in all manners of the word. That would mean that you're in the springtime of your life. And I do want to take you back to day one where I said, take what you need and discard the rest. You don't necessarily have to label these seasons of your life as seasons. I just like to use it to describe different seasons of your life, different experiences that you're having. Because if you'll notice, like nature, we have cycles, we come and go. Nothing is ever the same. It always changes. And that's why the phrase, this too shall pass, is so fantastic, because it's so true. Everything changes. Nothing is permanent. And so we're going to go through seasons in life. We're going to go through changes. And we're not going to spend our whole lives stuck in one season. And I think that's something important to remember when we're trying to reach for goals as well, is that if we're trying to achieve a goal or have success in a certain area, and we're in this slow resting state where we need nurturing and nothing's happening for us, if we don't trust that this will pass, that we will move into another season, then we're going to get really agitated and we're going to do the opposite of what we need, which is we're going to try and force things to happen. So this is why I love thinking about our life as seasons as well. So then moving through to a different season of your life, perhaps you're really busy and you're actually thriving in the busyness. You're taking action, you have a lot of energy. That would mean you're in a summer season of your life. And then moving into autumn, this is a time of transition, of letting go, of transformation. Think of, when it starts to transition from autumn to winter, the leaves start to fall. They start to die off and they fall. And even the transition from summer to autumn, the leaves change color. And so this is a time of, yes, change, but I like to use the word transition, because it reminds you that change can sometimes come with the connotation that it's scary and that big things are happening. And transition is shifting. Something is what it is now. It's not what it was, and it's not what it will be. But there's more coming. And so at this stage, I want you to think about, what season of your life are you in right now? For me, I feel as though I'm in autumn. So I've just come off the end of, I've had all these brilliant ideas and opportunities. And I moved into this period where I was busy and I was taking action, and I was still finding rest while taking action. That's an important part. We'll get into it later. Had lots of energy. And now I feel as though my energy is starting to deplete a little bit. I feel like I'm not going to be doing what I was doing when it comes to work. I feel like my relationships are changing. I'm not only making new friends, but the friends that I do have, I feel like there is transitions happening with dynamics there. And I feel as though I'm letting go of a lot of things too. And that all means transformation. Destruction has a negative connotation to it, but at the end of the day, destruction is transformation, letting go, letting the leaves fall for the transition to come. And look, new life comes, and then the beauty of spring comes, and then you're in full bloom, and then you start to decay again, and it's the circle cycle of life. Okay, and now I want to talk about using your menstrual cycle for productivity. So, menstruation is roughly days 1 to 6, and I just want to point out, I say roughly days 1 to 6 because it is completely, I don't know your cycle. I know mine, and so I'm basing it off what roughly mine looks like. And so if you want to match up your menstruation to your life and the actions you're taking or not taking and when you need rest, it's really helpful for productivity. And to me, a menstrual cycle isn't something that is going to go away anytime soon. So why not take advantage of it? Instead of falling victim to it, why not use it to the best of our ability to help us? And it's something that's really important for, intuition and feminine energy, being able to tune into your body and listen to your body's needs and signs and signals. And I'm speaking about this from a place too of not being on contraception. So I can't speak to what it's like to be on contraception and to try and manage your cycle, because at the end of the day, for most contraceptives, you're taking hormones. So what that actually is giving society. Now, I'm not shaming anyone for being on birth control. I've been on it before, but society is built. I always go back to blaming the Industrial Revolution, even though blaming isn't a very good idea for the soul. But the working world, the working force is structured in a way that is meant for males. We've only just, even just got mental health days, which is something that I like to attribute, women being a part of the workforce for. We have that feminine energy coming in and saying, hey, you will respect us. And so that also benefits men too. But anyway, I'm getting a bit sidetracked here. Being on birth control, you're trying to regulate your hormones, your feelings, and your mood so that it's consistent, like men. Men have, for the most part, once they reach adulthood, consistent hormones, and so most of the time, consistent emotions. It's just like baseline, right? Whereas the beauty of being a woman is that we go through so many changes. We get to experience the complexity of so many emotions and experiences of, and our menstrual cycle is an opportunity, our womb is an opportunity to tune into our bodies and get to know our bodies on a deeper level more than anybody else. And that is where you will get so much benefit from trust and intuition. And so forget like menstruation, just having a womb space in general is the opportunity. Anyway, I digress. So our menstruation phase is much like winter, right? It's a time of rest. It's a time to let go, to surrender to what's happening to us, to the feelings, physical and emotional, to slow down. It's honestly a blessing in disguise. We just don't realize it, especially if we're not tending to our bodies. So, it's time to tend to the garden, and you might feel the urge to become a bit of a hermit. You might not show up socially as much or as well, and that's okay. It's important to acknowledge if you're in that phase of the cycle and you feel like staying home and not, rescheduling plans, that is perfectly fine. And I want you to remember that, if you're judging yourself for any of these things and you're menstruating, first of all, try to have some compassion. And if you can't, remember, hey, I'm in my winter right now. What does winter look like? Bears go into hibernation. The leaves fall off. The leaves don't exist on the tree anymore. The tree is bare. Moving on to the pre-ovulatory phase, which is like just before ovulation, between menstruation and ovulation. Just move my face out the way. So this is roughly days 6 to 14 for me personally. And this is the springtime. So the way it correlates to, you know, the seasons of the life, springtime is a time of creativity, of new buds sprouting, ideas, picking up energy, and being, you know, excitable, giggly, seeing the full bloom, you know, the bloom starting to happen. I'm sorry, not full bloom, seeing the bloom start to happen. And then we move into the ovulatory phase, which is when you are most likely to ovulate, which is roughly days 14 to 18 for me. Again, if you're not tracking your cycle, first of all, start tracking your cycle. If you need the motivation for it and like your own personal knowledge and well-being isn't enough for that, use it for productivity. Use that as motivation to start tracking your cycle. So many free apps out there, even just using a calendar, honestly. And then you can figure out from there based on, you know, your energy levels, or if you actually have like a really good tracker app, it will tell you when you're most likely ovulating. I actually use the fertility awareness method, not trying to get pregnant, trying to avoid it, which is why I want to be aware of when I'm most fertile. And I have a basal body thermometer, and every morning around the same time I take my temperature, because when you are ovulating and when you're about to menstruate, your temperature is slightly different to the pre-ovulatory and the post-ovulatory phase. And even in saying that, your menstruation phase, whichever way the temperature goes, is slightly different to the direction that your temperature goes when you're ovulating. I'm pretty sure your temperature spikes when you're in the ovulatory phase by like 0.2 or 3 degrees, I think. I mean, it's probably dependent on you and your body. And then during the menstruation phase, as you're coming out of this post-ovulatory phase, you start to see your temperature slowing down. So there's a nice correlation there. So your ovulatory phase is the time of action. It's a time to take action. You probably have a higher amount of energy. You've been looking after yourself. You might be an action taker. You're in full bloom. So you've gone into a deep rest. You're starting to plant these seeds and start sprouting, and then you're in full bloom in the summertime. So, you know, you might actually have a higher amount of sexual energy, and this makes sense from a biological level, because if you're ovulating, then your body naturally wants you to have a baby. So you're going to have a higher level of not only certain hormones, but an increase in that desire and that drive, possibly, depending on the context. And if you don't know what those are, go back to day 2. And you might be a bit more social in this phase. And then moving on through to autumn. So this is the transition period, the transition between summer and winter. This is post-ovulation, so after ovulation. This is roughly days 18 to 30 for me. Most of the time, my period goes for 35 days, but I wanted to try to keep it relevant to the general pop, as they say. So this is a time of transition, starting to feel like we're slowing down, everything is falling away, maybe our energy levels are lowering, we're experiencing change or the aftermath of some change, a little bit of uncertainty. And, you know, if you're like me, obviously you're starting to get PMS symptoms, and that can be in itself an uncertainty. You don't know what PMS symptoms you're going to get. You don't know what the PMS symptoms mean. You might be in your mind a lot, and you're starting to clear the slate in preparation for winter. And you're even starting to clear the slate of your uterus. So there's a lot of correlations here that I accidentally made and only have realized in speaking this out loud, which is actually really, really cool. So thank you for allowing me to do that. How you do anything is how you do everything. So we're jumping ship just a little bit. If you struggle to understand this concept, I've got an example for you. So when I first started exercising, it didn't matter how much I was told I could do, let's say like 10 push-ups. Someone might look at me and go, oh yeah, you could do 10 push-ups. Mentally, I thought, I can't do 10 push-ups. I can't even do one. And so in starting to do push-ups, it felt really hard. One felt really hard. I didn't want to continue. I wanted to quit. I wanted to bail. I wanted to give up. And the more I showed up to exercise, that voice was still there. But what I would do is prove to myself that I could do one more. And I would set that goal, just one more, just one more. And most of the time, I actually would give out mentally before I gave out physically. And the reason I say this is because how I approached exercise is how I approached every other area of my life. Friendships, my career, jobs. If it started to get just a little bit too uncomfortable, just a little bit hard, I would give up or give in. And this is what is meant by how you do anything is how you do everything. So you could even exercise is a fantastic example, in my opinion, about assessing your mindset. How do you approach exercise? When you're doing exercise, what are the thoughts that go through your head? You might even have the opposite of, I can do this, right? But that can also be a negative too. You're trying to force yourself to And if you can adjust how you approach something as small as exercise in a way that is healthy to you, that suits your definition of success, then you are going to go so far in other areas of your life. You're proving to yourself that you can do it. Moving on to mindset for magic. So this is a nice blend of masculine and feminine is what mindset for magic is. So, I talked about yesterday, masculine is accountability, discipline, action, structure, being very logical, connecting the dots, possibly fast paced. And then the feminine side of things is, trusting, having faith that the action you're taking is going to work towards what it's going to help things come to fruition. Having that inner knowing, that intuition, and also, rest and flow. Those are things of the feminine. And so if you can marry the two and have a nice blend of both, go back and forth between the two and just remind yourself of both, that's what's going to allow you to create whatever that thing is that you want. I actually feel as though I had a note that I wanted to share on this before I continue. I think I put it in at the end, so we'll wait to the end for the juicy part. And that mindset for magic is linked to manifestation, because in order to manifest things into our lives, there has to be a blend of action, whether that's soft action or bold action. And that blend of trusting and having faith that it's all going to work out. So, and what I mean by soft action and bold action, I will give you an example. So let's say you want to become a pharmacist. I know it's random, it's the first thing that popped into my head. Soft action would be Googling, how do you become a pharmacist, or listening to podcasts on what pharmacists do and how I don't even know if there's that out there. There probably is. There's a podcast for everything. And the journey of becoming a pharmacist, that's soft action. Bold action would be signing up and investing in a degree to become a pharmacist. Yeah. So that's the difference between soft action and bold action. I just wanted to point that out because sometimes when we do take action, and it doesn't feel like enough, it's because we haven't taken enough bold action. And then sometimes if we're taking too much bold action and you feel overwhelmed and you feel like shocked in a bit of scarcity, it's possibly because you've taken so much bold action and you haven't taken any soft action. It's a weird life we live, isn't it? So the rules of manifestation are understanding your desire, the thing that you want, and using it in the form of a mantra. And mantra is literally just a Sanskrit word for thought. So instead of I want to, it's another example. I want a lifelong partner, a loving lifelong partner. Instead, you would phrase it for manifestation, I am in a loving relationship with a lifelong partner. And that's important because the more you can hear it that way in your mind, or say it that way in your mind, the more you start to feel as though it can become a reality for you. Sometimes if we are only thinking about that thing that we desire as abstract, and most probably as, all the reasons why we can't get there, we're going to continue believing that we can't get there. So that's why that part is important. And then moving on to emotions. So how do you want to feel, or how do you believe you will feel when you have that thing that you want to manifest? So if it's a loving, lifelong partnership, how you might want to feel is loved and secure, or safe and excited even. So pinpointing specifically what emotions are relevant to you, to what you want. Fulfilled is another one that could go into that category. And then we move on to, so this the emotions part is the feminine part. I would argue that the desire part is a masculine part, because it's goal orientated, right? And then emotions are the feminine, because it's all about feeling in and embracing the juiciness. And then action is another masculine part. So this can be soft action or bold action, so small or big. And the action that you're going to take is going to be related to possibly the emotions that you want to feel. So I want to be in a loving, lifelong partnership. Oh my goodness, I just forgot my own rule. I am in a loving, lifelong partnership. This makes me feel secure and fulfilled. I will take action on this by listening to a podcast on how healthy relationships. That's some soft action. Or I will take action by signing up to oh my gosh, what are those things called? A speed dating, I don't know. And that's an example. That's bold. You sign up to that, or you actually go. That's the bold action right there. And then another way you could formulate the actions is taking action that makes you feel the way that you want to feel. So you're welcoming in those emotions that you want to feel. So you learn to receive those emotions and embrace them and enjoy them. So I will action this by something that makes you feel fulfilled. Going to the beach, walking barefoot on the sand, eating an ice cream, all together. Perhaps that makes you feel fulfilled. And then the last part is trust. So we're going to go over what trust is and how to lean into trust in a moment, but always, always, always at the end of a manifestation, whether that's a statement or you're just doing it mentally, I always say, I trust that this will happen this or something better. And if you have trouble trusting in other people or in life, I've got your back, because I have always been a mistrusting person until recently, I would say in the last 6 months. And I've really compiled all this juicy knowledge on mindset work when it comes to trust, because it's not necessarily something that feels like it can be taught or has been taught before. And then obviously that trust part is also feminine, right? So, and this is why I say we need the balance of the masculine and the feminine. We need the polarity. So, masculine, feminine, masculine, feminine. So the first two parts, the mantra, the I am statement, and the acknowledging, oh my gosh, I can't talk tonight. Acknowledging the emotions that you want to feel or are going to feel. This is all about knowing how you want to be. So even sitting with the thing that you want and imagining, letting yourself imagine, what is it? How am I going to feel? What does that look like? The action part is creating more of that thing in your life right now. So your emotions, or, taking that baby step, right? That next single baby step. And this really comes back to the idea of embodying it to receive it, like we spoke about on day one. And the trust portion is about being in a state of surrender. So creating space for it to come in. If we're constantly filling up our lives, we will never have space for that which we want to call in. And I quickly took a note before I recorded this session as well, because I was thinking about in my own life, even in today, how I woke up and I really felt as though I had so many things that I must do. And then when I realized I don't actually have to do them, they became things that I wanted to do. And then I realized, why am I filling up my time so much? Why? I don't have to do that to myself. And so the way that I also recognized that we as humans fill up our lives so much is, a great example is filling up on food for the fear of being hungry or going without or not being able to access food for a long time. We're filling up our lives. And this is where like snacking can become a problem, right? We're constantly filling for the fear of nothing else coming. A great example is caffeine as well. We're dosing up on caffeine for the fear of being tired, the fear of not having enough energy. And the first example that I gave was, finding activities to do and labeling them musts when they're really not musts, and the world isn't going to end if we don't do them. And not only is the world not going to end, but it really doesn't matter. Even thinking about clothes, right? My mind always goes to the washing. There's always washing to do, and we start to become behind on our washing, and then we get it in our heads like, oh, I need to do the washing today. Is that true? If you have absolutely zero underwear, maybe that's true. But I don't know about you. I have a lot of spare underwear. That is my just in case pile. And I feel as though I have half, if not less than half, the amount of clothes than a regular person, because I just did a huge clear out, because I'm creating space for more of what about to open a new branch. Oh, just give me a wave if my internet starts to maybe even message me in the chat, because it said my internet connection was unstable. How dare it? I'll turn my Wi-Fi off. Cool. So he's telling the story. Mechanic guy wants to open a new branch. My husband was like, is that what you really want? He was like, no, I want a family. but he didn't have a partner. And so instead of leaving space for a partner to come in and children to come in eventually, he's filling up his entire life so that it's constantly busy. And not only are you filling up your time and your energy, but you're filling up your mind, right? Because not only are you thinking about all this extra work that has to be done, but you're also thinking about what you don't have. And you're not actually able to take any action on it. And so it's going to play over and over on your mind. And so this is why it's so important, like rest, to be able to create that space for it to come in. Even in the realm of thought, being able to clear the slate every now and then in your mind and not be focusing so hard on what you don't have and what it is that you want. Stepping into that state of trust, of reminding yourself, okay, this could happen for me. This can happen for me. This will happen for me. And I'm going to go through how to, I've got a great question in the homework, how to, realize that you can trust and you have already trusted and you just don't realize it. Side note, what is trust? So I looked up the definition, and it is a firm belief in the reliability, truth, or ability of something. So when we think about the fact that it's a belief, first of all, what I want you to understand is that you can choose what you believe in. I think that was honed in on me from a very young age. No, I wasn't baptized, even though my family was Catholic. And from the very beginning, I was told you get to choose what you believe in. And I've gone throughout my life trying so many different realms of everything. I've tried so much because I was allowed to believe in whatever I chose to believe in. And when you realize that that is possible for you, you realize that you can choose to believe in the possibility of a different future, of a different now, of a more true version of you. And I wanted to put in that it comes from the Old Norse word, which is, Vikings and Scandinavian. Strong. To trust is to be strong. And not only that, it's people, when they say I have a strong faith in something, that's to be able to trust. And so how do we build that muscle to become strong? It's by practicing trusting. When it comes to the balance of trust and action, the balance of masculine and feminine, I have an example. And this example is funny because I wrote this so many months ago, but I actually had someone on the call yesterday. I took them through a sensual grounding meditation, and they felt the urge to pee once we did the meditation, once she tuned into her body. So, and then I got the message and she was like, I realized I need to pee. I'll be right back. And so understanding how to trust and how to use your intuition is great through this example. Your body tells you what you need all the time. A great example is to pee. So you get the feeling, you notice the feeling, you might ignore it, you notice the feeling's getting stronger, you might ignore it again, and then all of a sudden it's super strong and you're like, you know what? Actually, I need to pee. So you take action. If you have created enough empty space in your mind, in your emotional body, and in your schedule, the answer will come to you in the form of a niggle or an instant knowing. And this is what I mean by, trusting that the answer will come in and being able to use your intuition. Your body is the intuitive one. So you must trust your body that it is trying to tell you something. And if you can't figure out what it is it's trying to tell you, just try. Try different things. If you're getting a little niggle in your stomach and you're about to make a particular decision, it doesn't mean you necessarily need to question the decision, because no matter what, if you still have that feeling after you've made your decision, then that is you in a state of learning what your intuition is telling you. And I wanted to say that because it's so easy to overthink the signs and signals that come from your body. A great example is like the need to pee. If you hold on long enough, you'll get pains, right, in your bladder. You can get that signal, and if you could think, shit, I have a bladder infection. Oh shit, here we go. I have a UTI. It's okay if you don't understand the signs and signals your body is telling you. Just trust the urge that you get. Trust the action that naturally you want to take. You must trust your body that is trying to tell you something. The feeling will get louder and stronger, and if it is meant for you, it will always come back again. You just have to be quiet enough to listen and trust. When we feel stuck or like we're forcing our way to where we want to be, so taking a lot of action perhaps, it's either because we are struggling to trust or because we are comparing our circumstances to someone else's. So a lot of the time, and social media is horrible for comparison, or is it fantastic because it's showing you what you need to address within yourself? If we're taking action and we feel good, and then perhaps we get on social media and we see people, for example, I'm in the life coaching space, we see other life coaches making X amount of money, getting X amount of views, consistently busy, for example, always happy, being authentically themselves. If we look at that and we feel like we're not enough, we're comparing ourselves to that person. We're comparing ourselves to the state that they're in, their work. And that's when we start to get distracted. We'll feel like we're stuck, or we're going to start forcing shit because we want to be like them. When in reality, no one else is ever going to be like them but themselves. And when you understand that, you understand you are going at your own pace. The pace you're going at is perfect for you. You will not learn anything extra above what you are ready to learn and take on. And then it comes back to compassion again. The key to life, really, isn't it? And so this is the part that I wanted to talk about most. These are the two mantras, if you will, that go over in my mind when I am struggling to either, when I am feeling stuck or when I am forcing. So if I'm trying to force a situation and I feel like there's a rush or I feel like I'm going to miss out, I have to remind myself that what is meant for me will not miss me. It will not pass me by. There is, so many of us believe in destiny and fate without actually saying that out loud. Believing, what was the example I used the other day? I can't quite remember, it slipped my mind. Perhaps I'm not meant to teach you about that just yet. Maybe that's a further down the line thing. What is meant for me will not pass me. That thought will come back eventually. And so when I am stuck, when I feel like I'm stuck, or even if I am forcing as well, sometimes I'll remind myself everything is a choice. I am choosing to feel stuck right now. I'm choosing to see myself or perceive myself as stuck. I am choosing to take all this action that isn't getting me anywhere. And so if you can go back and forth between these two mantras, I really feel as though not only will you achieve the accountability and ownership over your life, but you'll also be able to trust in your life, trust in yourself, and trust in the universe. And what's beautiful is these two statements sound like they're contradictory, but there's this thing called cognitive dissonance, where you can hold two opposing ideas at the same time. And to me, any two ideas can exist at the same time. Both are true. And you have the choice, as I said earlier, but everything's a choice. You have the choice to believe it or not. And so what are you going to believe in? Are you going to believe in something that supports you or something that harms you? The choice is yours. Now we're moving on to the homework journaling questions. So first up, we went over this. I'm not sure if you've already done it, but what is your new definition of success? What do you want to define your success by? Next up, what season are you in life right now? What does that mean for you? What must you embody right now? So, for example, I said I was in the season of autumn right now. I feel like I'm in transition. I feel like things that no longer serve me are falling away. I feel like old belief systems are falling away. So what does that mean for me? What must I embody right now? And so even if you're thinking about, you kind of know what season you're in right now, we can go back to, although if you're watching the recording, you can just pause. But if I'm in autumn and I'm in the season of transition, letting go and transformation, I have to surrender to that. But not only that, surrender to the slowing down, letting things fall away, embracing uncertainty and being able to hold myself in that uncertain space, and starting to let myself have empty space even. She went too far. Where are you in your cycle? So days since your first day of your previous period. And once you understand that, you can look at where you are in the cycle for the menstruation phases. Are you in winter? So are you menstruating? Are you in spring? So you're just after menstruating but just before ovulating? Are you in summer where you're ovulating? Or are you post-ovulation on your way to menstruation, which is post-ovulatory, which is autumn, if I didn't already say that again. Or fall. I like the idea of using fall because it reminds you that the leaves fall, but also that you need to let things fall. You need to surrender to the decay and the destruction. Something else on change and destruction that I heard the other day, sometimes we struggle to embrace change because we don't accept that there is loss and grief within change. No matter what happens, even if the change is for the better or the change is exciting, there is a loss and a grieving process over what was, over who we were perhaps as well. And so once you accept that change has loss and grief, and you're able to hold yourself in that state of loss and grief, that's where when you surrender, that's where you can accept the change, accept the transition, the destruction, and move on out into a different cycle and phase of your life. That was a weird download. If I trusted that what I'm experiencing is happening for me for my highest good, how would that change my thoughts and emotions? And if you get a bit stuck on that question, you can feel free to message me and I can rephrase it, because as I was reading that, I feel quite disconnected to that question. But if you can answer it, go for gold. Next up is about manifestation. So what do I want to manifest in my life? I would start with one thing. If you haven't done manifestation before, manifestation statements, how do I want to feel when I have that? And what small action step can I take today towards creating this? I would even go as far as to add another question on, which is, what can I do today that will allow me to feel the emotions of the thing that I want to manifest? Learning to step into and receive those emotions as well is so important. And lastly, this is my favorite question, and this is something I referred to earlier, which is a question I like the most. When has my life shown evidence that everything always works out for me? And I want you to go through as many as you can humanly list without forcing. Thinking about times when things either like spontaneously worked out for you, or in the long run, things worked out for you. Things benefited you, served you, actually supported you in who you are today. And if you can list, what it was that worked out, and also, where you were before that, so you can acknowledge that change, that chaos, that destruction was actually beautiful for you being able to see how it benefits you, that it's happening for you and not to you. And not only that, that you have trusted before. That's what this whole question is about showing yourself the evidence of when you have been able to trust in your experiences, or even just evidence of the fact that you can trust in your experiences, the past and the future. And the present, baby. Lastly, I just wanted to remind you that I am still doing those free calls. Again, no sales pitch, no gimmicks. I just want to be able to practice more of what I love. Doing the breakthrough sessions, whether that's emotional release technique, where I take you through a guided visualization, or I do a bit of an intuitive reading. I might pull some oracle cards, and I can do a bit of a clairvoyance for you as well. Although I hate that label, and I hate the connotations that come with that label, but the offering is there regardless. I just wanted to